What if everything we thought we knew about the Incas was wrong? For centuries, we've been told a story, a grand tale of a single, powerful empire that dominated the Andes, building monumental cities like Machu Picchu and forging a vast civilization from nothing. We see them as the pinnacle of ancient South American achievement, the final word in a long history of human endeavor. But what if that story is incomplete? What if it's just the final chapter of a much grander, more mysterious book? Imagine stepping back in time, not to the familiar, well-trodden paths of Machu Picchu, but to a forgotten world shrouded in mist and mystery. We're journeying deep into the Andes, far beyond the reach of conventional history and the empire we thought we knew. Hidden high in the clouds, where few have dared to look, lie ancient cities that predate the Incas by hundreds, even thousands of years. These uncharted settlements, these enigmatic cloud cities, hold secrets that could completely rewrite the narrative of human civilization and challenge our understanding of advanced societies. This isn't just about finding another ruin. This is about shattering a myth. Historians have focused on the Incan Empire for so long that we've overlooked the incredible civilizations that came before them. The civilizations that laid the very groundwork for the Incas' success. What if the Incas' greatest achievements were actually built upon the foundations of an even older, more sophisticated culture? We're going to explore these pre-Incan cloud cities that defy explanation. We'll discover groundbreaking evidence that suggests a past far more complex and advanced than anything our textbooks teach. We'll uncover a forgotten legacy, a blueprint for an empire that would rise centuries later. This is the story of the builders before the Incas. This is the story of the lost cities in the clouds. For centuries, the story of the ancient Andes has been a simple one, or so we thought. It's a story told in the grand architecture of Cusco and the breathtaking terraces of Machu Picchu. It's a narrative of the Incan Empire, the sons of the sun, who, in just over a century, expanded from a small kingdom into the largest empire in pre-Columbian America. Their achievements are undeniable. A vast network of roads connecting a diverse geography, impressive agricultural feats that fed millions, and an advanced social structure built on a foundation of communal work and shared resources. This is the conventional history we've all been taught. It's a complete picture, a definitive account of a powerful people who conquered and unified the mountainous lands of South America. And for a long time, it was enough. But what if that narrative is missing a few key chapters? What if the greatness of the Incan Empire was not born in a vacuum, but was built upon the echoes of civilizations that came long before? Think of it like this. If the Incas were the magnificent final act of a symphony, who wrote the notes for the first movement? Who were the composers that set the stage, whose melodies still whisper across the silent peaks of the Andes? We are not here to diminish the Incas' legacy. Rather, we are here to understand it more deeply, to see the intricate web of influence and inheritance. Because when you look closely at the highlands of northern Peru, you start to see something different. You see stonework that isn't quite Incan, pottery with designs that don't match anything from Cusco, and massive forgotten cities with an architectural style all their own. These are the whispers before the empire. They come from the land of the Chachapoya, the warriors of the clouds. High in the cloud forest, they built something truly astonishing, the fortress of Kuélap. For generations, we've marveled at Incan stonework, but Kuélap's walls are something else entirely. Massive, towering, and older. So old that when the Incas finally arrived, they were already a world-weary, thousand-year-old testament to a powerful culture. And the Chachapoya were not alone. Far to the south, nestled in the desert valleys, the ancient city of Caral stands as a silent giant. It's so old that its existence changes our entire timeline. Caral is not just pre-Incan, it is a foundational civilization of the Americas, a sophisticated urban center with massive pyramids and complex social structures. It flourished over 4,500 years ago, at the same time the Egyptians were building their first pyramids. This isn't a small village, this is a city that thrived for 1,000 years. And then there are the Wari. An empire in their own right. The Wari emerged centuries before the Incas, building cities and an impressive road network. Their influence was widespread, spreading art and a unified culture across a vast territory. They were masters of textiles and ceramic art, and their administrative style laid the blueprint for the Incan Empire that would one day follow. Their capital, a sprawling metropolis, was once a hub of power, innovation, and trade. Yet, to many, their story remains untold. So, let's step off the tourist trails and into the true heart of the Andes. Let's leave the familiar story of the Inca behind and journey to the secret places, the sites that hold the keys to this radical shift in our understanding of pre-Columbian South America. We'll uncover the evidence, piece by piece, that suggests a past far more complex, a history rich with multiple empires, brilliant architects, and forgotten peoples whose legacy echoes in every stone the Incas laid. This is the journey to the source, the journey to the whispers. Now that we've established the whispers, let's go to the source. Our journey takes us away from the well-trodden tourist paths, deep into the heart of the Andean cloud forest, to a place shrouded in mist and legend. Our first stop is Kuélap. Often called the fortress in the clouds, this isn't just a small ruin, it is a monument to an unknown civilization, a sprawling, massive city built by the Chachapoya people, the warriors of the clouds. When you first see it, you'll be stunned by its scale. Rising from the mountaintop, Kuélap is encircled by colossal walls, some reaching over 60 feet high. These walls are not just for defense. They are an architectural statement, a testament to the power and sophistication of a people we know so little about. Unlike the precisely cut, mortar-free stonework of the Incas, the Chachapoya used a different, equally impressive technique. Their stones, though often rougher, are meticulously placed to create a formidable, circular citadel that blends seamlessly into the rugged landscape. It's a style all their own, a signature left on the landscape 1,000 years before the Incas arrived. Inside, the city is a labyrinth of hundreds of circular stone houses, each one a perfectly formed, self-contained unit. These aren't the rectangular buildings of the Incan Empire. Their round shape suggests a different social structure, a different way of life. They were homes, but also sacred spaces, with intricate details and spiritual symbols carved into the stone. We can only hypothesize about their purpose. Were they simple family dwellings? Or did they house a complex society with different classes and beliefs? The sheer number of them suggests a large, thriving population, a true hub of life above the clouds. But Kuélap is just one piece of the puzzle. Our next destination is a testament to the sheer scale of these pre-Incan cultures. We're talking about the Wari. Centered in the Ayacucho region, the Wari built an empire in their own right, and their influence stretched across much of modern-day Peru. Their capital city, a vast urban center, was a masterclass in urban planning. It featured sophisticated multi-story buildings, plazas, and a road network that rivaled the Romans. This wasn't just a city. It was an administrative capital, a hub of power, and a center of a vast interconnected network. The Wari were masters of organization and bureaucracy, laying the very groundwork for the systems the Incas would later inherit and perfect. And to truly appreciate the depth of this history, we must travel to the coast, to the ancient city of Caral. This site rewrites the entire timeline of the Americas. Caral is over 4,500 years old, flourishing at the same time as the first Egyptian pyramids. Its existence shatters the myth that advanced urban societies in the Americas only emerged in the last millennium. Caral had monumental pyramids, ceremonial plazas, and a highly organized society with a sophisticated understanding of acoustics and architecture. It was a thriving metropolis, a foundation that shows human civilization in the Andes is far, far older than we ever imagined. Each of these sites tells a distinct part of the story. Kuélap, a fortress of a culture that defied Incan norms. The Wari, an empire of planners and organizers whose legacy still lives on. And Caral, the ancient mother city that reminds us that these great cultures are a continuation, not a beginning. Together they form a new, more complete picture of the Andean past, one that is far richer, more complex, and more mysterious than the one we thought we knew. The Incas were not the first, nor were they the only ones. They were the inheritors of a legacy, a final act built upon the monumental, long-forgotten foundations of the cloud Enigmas. We've explored the massive walls and impressive structures of these ancient civilizations. But who were the people who lived here? What was daily life like in these cities above the clouds, long before the Incan Empire? To truly understand them, we have to look beyond the grand monuments and focus on the human story. Life here was a testament to resilience and ingenuity. The Andean highlands are a challenging environment, but these cultures didn't just survive, they thrived. They were master agriculturalists, adapting to a landscape of steep mountains and unpredictable weather. They developed sophisticated systems of terracing, some of which are even more complex than those later used by the Incas. These terraces weren't just for growing food, they were microclimates, allowing them to cultivate a wide variety of crops at different altitudes, from corn and potatoes to quinoa and coca. They were experts at managing water, building intricate irrigation channels that captured the mountain streams and directed them to their fields. Their resourcefulness extended to their social structures. We can see clues to a different kind of society in their architecture. The circular houses of Kuelap, for instance, suggest a strong communal way of life. Unlike the grid-like, centrally planned cities of the Incas, these settlements feel more organic, more interconnected. Daily life likely revolved around the community, with families working together to farm, build, and maintain their homes. The lack of a clear, single ruling class in some of these early sites suggests a more egalitarian society where leadership might have been based on wisdom or skill, not just a royal lineage. But they were not just farmers and builders. They were artists, storytellers, and spiritual seekers. The artifacts they left behind, the pottery, the textiles, the carvings, are more than just objects. They are expressions of their identity and their worldview. Look closely at the designs on a piece of Wari pottery. You'll see images of mythical creatures, geometric patterns, and spiritual symbols that are distinct from Incan iconography. These artistic expressions were a form of communication, telling stories of their beliefs, their gods, and their relationship with the natural world. And what of their spiritual beliefs? High in these cloud cities, they were literally closer to the heavens. It's no surprise that their religion was deeply connected to the elements, the sky, the mountains, the rain. We find evidence of ceremonial centers and sacred spaces where rituals were performed. These were people who saw the sacred in every aspect of their lives, from the planting of a seed to the carving of a stone. Their spirituality was woven into the very fabric of their society, a guide for their actions and a source of their strength. We're still uncovering the nuances of their daily life and their beliefs. Much of what we know is based on careful analysis of these material remains. But each new discovery paints a more vivid picture. An ancient loom with a half-finished textile tells us about the artistry and patience of their weavers. A cooking pot with traces of ancient grains and meat tells us about their diet. A ceremonial knife tells us about their rituals. These artifacts serve as a bridge, allowing us to connect with a people we can never meet. They remind us that the story of the Andes is not a simple tale of one conquering empire. It is a rich tapestry of diverse cultures, each with its own unique way of life, its own beliefs, and its own remarkable legacy. The Incas may have inherited their lands, but they also inherited their knowledge, their innovations, and the enduring spirit of the people who lived and thrived above the clouds. We've seen the monumental walls of Kuélap, the vast urban planning of the Wari, and the ancient pyramids of Caral. We've explored their daily lives, their beliefs, and their incredible ingenuity. These were not small, isolated communities. They were powerful, widespread civilizations that thrived for centuries, even millennia. So the question remains, a question that has haunted archaeologists for decades. Why did they disappear? Their decline is one of the greatest mysteries of the Andes, a puzzle with many theories, but no single definitive answer. It wasn't a single, catastrophic event like a volcanic eruption. Instead, it was likely a slow, complex unraveling. One theory points to climate change. The Andean highlands are incredibly sensitive to shifts in weather patterns. A prolonged drought could have devastated their agricultural systems, leading to famine and social unrest. Imagine a society built on a foundation of communal farming, suddenly unable to feed its people. The intricate systems of terraces and irrigation would have become useless, and the social fabric that held everything together would have frayed and eventually broken. The great cities, once bustling hubs of activity, would have been slowly abandoned as people were forced to migrate to more hospitable lands in search of food and water. We see archaeological evidence of this, sites where construction suddenly stopped and populations dwindled. Another theory suggests internal conflict. As these societies grew larger and more complex, internal strife could have fractured them. Competition over resources, power struggles between different factions, or even religious schisms could have led to a breakdown of order. Imagine a once unified empire splitting into smaller, warring states, their resources and energy diverted from building and trade to conflict and defense. This constant state of war would have weakened them, making them vulnerable to outside forces. The Wari, for example, a great empire in its time, seems to have collapsed into smaller, regional states before the rise of the Incas. And then there's the possibility of outside pressure. Were these pre-Incan civilizations conquered and absorbed? It's not a simple story of a larger, stronger force wiping them out. Instead, it might have been a process of integration. As the Incan Empire expanded, it didn't always destroy the cultures it encountered. Often it absorbed them, incorporating their ideas, technologies, and people into their own system. Think of it like a river. The smaller streams, the Wari, the Chachapoya, were eventually swept up into the larger, more powerful current of the Incan Empire. Their innovations in road building, agriculture, and administration were not lost. They were inherited and perfected by the Incas. Their gods may have been reinterpreted, and their leaders may have been given new roles, but their legacy endured. The archaeological record tells us a story of slow decline, not sudden annihilation. Excavations show a decrease in new construction, a simplification of art forms, and a shift in settlement patterns. It's a sad, quiet end to a glorious chapter of history. And yet, their demise is also a key to understanding the Incas. The Incas didn't just appear out of nowhere. They rose to power in a world where great empires had already existed and fallen. They learned from the successes and failures of their predecessors. They built their roads on top of the old Wari networks. They perfected agricultural techniques that had been developed by the people who lived in the cloud forests. The very foundations of the Incan Empire were, in many ways, the enduring legacy of the cultures they replaced. We may never know the full story of why these magnificent civilizations vanished. But what we do know is this: they didn't just disappear into thin air. Their knowledge, their innovations, and their very existence created the world in which the Incas could rise and flourish. Their story is a powerful reminder that history is not a series of isolated events, but a continuous chain where the end of one great civilization often marks the beginning of the next. We've reached the end of our journey, but this is really just the beginning. The stories of these pre-Incan civilizations are not just chapters from a dusty old history book. They are a powerful reminder that our past is far more complex and fascinating than we've ever been led to believe. The whispers of these cloud cities echo a truth that extends far beyond the well-known narrative of the Incan Empire. They tell us that greatness and innovation can rise from unexpected places, and that every grand achievement is built on the foundations of those who came before. But the story is not over. These remote, often forgotten sites are in danger. Climate change, development, and a lack of public awareness threaten to erase these invaluable pages of human history. The ongoing work of archaeologists is a race against time, a race to uncover and preserve these sites for future generations. This is why it's so important to look beyond the mainstream, to support the kind of research that takes us into the heart of the Andes and other uncharted territories. It's a call to action for all of us, to be curious, to question what we've been taught, and to appreciate the profound resilience of the human spirit. These cloud cities teach us that even in the most challenging environments, ancient peoples found ways to thrive. They built cities in the clouds, mastered agriculture on impossibly steep slopes, and created art that tells a story of a world we are only just beginning to understand. Their legacy is not just in the stones they laid, but in the lessons they offer us about innovation, perseverance, and the endless capacity of the human mind. So let's not just admire their ruins, let's listen to their whispers and look beyond the horizon for the next great mystery waiting to be uncovered.